I was on the team for an exorcism that took place, and the demon was manifesting itself. The person was possessed and was determined that they were possessed. I wasn't the chief person doing the exorcism. I was there to pray and be part of the team. And I remember the first time that we began the actual ritual, the exorcism itself. It was quite a challenge. The whole point of the story is not to get into that aspect of it, but what the chief exorcist decided to do at that point, which was, now we're going to say Mass here in the house. And I said, well, why would we say Mass? There's an unholy thing happening. Why would we do the holiest thing in the midst of what seemed like dark? And he said, because the demons hate the Mass. And the demons hate the Mass so much that it makes them howl and scream. And I like to make them howl and scream. And I want to hear them leave as they howl and scream. And I know no better way than for them to be ticked off at us celebrating the greatest miracle there is, the miracle of the bread of life. I thought, well, I can't argue with that logic. And I thought to myself, wow, what a powerful thing. And as we were saying Mass, it was quite evident that the demon or demons were very upset. But they always lose. And in the power of the Holy Eucharist, they definitely lost. They were envious and upset because they can't have what it is you and I can. The body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ. Wow. There's the story of St. Clare that when the Muslim hordes were coming to take over that part of the area, her convent, of which she was the abbess, she was the Mother Superior, was to be overrun. And she feared for her sisters, of course. And she prayed to the Lord, who told her to put the Eucharist into the monstrance and put the monstrance on the highest window in the monastery, in the convent that they were at. And for all the nuns to just fall to their knees and pray. And that when she did this, what had happened as the power of the Eucharist, seen by the Muslims, caused them all to fall off their horses. And they were so afraid because the horses ran, and they in turn ran as well. And it was in the moment where Clare said to her nuns, never doubt the power of the Eucharist. Never doubt what the Eucharist can do to inform the world. I say those two stories because this privilege that we receive at Holy Mass, to receive the body and blood, soul and divinity. Jesus says in the Gospel today, my flesh is true food and my blood is true drink. And unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you have no life within you. God is not a liar. He speaks only the truth, and he gives us what we need to know so that we might be saved. So it's important and incumbent upon us never to take the Eucharist for granted. And if the power of the Eucharist can influence the world and the demonic and the dark and the evil and the threatening and the chaos and the weather, what more so can it do for you and for me who become what it is we eat? God is inviting us to become more like him, and the best way he's able to do it in Jesus Christ is for us to eat his body and drink his blood. So many Catholics have fallen away from the church. Too many Catholics who are going to church sometimes aren't as frequent as they ought to. And some people are too casual in the way they receive. So the challenge is always the challenge, which is this. Come with respect. Come with the dignity you bear. Come believing the promise. Come wanting to be different. If a holy Mass can make demons howl, how much more can us receiving, you and me, the body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ, change anything that is going wrong within us? any sin, any problem, any temptation, any habit. And how much more can it increase the joys of our lives and the excitement to be able to live every single day in the Lord. You know, Scott's about to get confirmed. What a wonderful thing. He came to me several months before and he said, I want to join. Yeah. And he's been coming to Mass. Of course, he couldn't receive because he wasn't part of the church yet. And he wanted to make sure that his family was united in one way. What wonderful things God has in store for us and always has in store for us. And we owe it to Him to give Him good worship, to love Him well, to be obedient to Him, to humble ourselves. And then when we worthily receive His body and blood, soul and divinity, to know that He's working on us, to see more clearly the eternal prize, that we will be risen up on the last day, and we will have heaven as our promise and gift. I don't know about you, not just because I'm a priest, and I bet you sometimes sit in the pews and you say, yeah, you know, Monsignor, you're a priest, it's easier for you. Hogwash. Do you think it's any easier for me to walk down this aisle and prepare my heart any more than it is for you? Do you think that I don't have to quibble with doubts and confusions and difficulties in my life? Do you think I'm free from any temptations? I'm not the Blessed Virgin Mary. I'm not sinless. I'm a human being struggling to do the very same things that you are. So the Lord calls us to be better than we are, to cling to our better angels, to go after the virtuous, not the base. And the Holy Eucharist helps us to do that. It is a power against the world, and it is a power that burns within us. It inflames the soul to love God. And the more we become like Him, and the more in union we are with Him, the more His promise comes alive in us. You will be with me in the resurrection, in the end, for all eternity.